What is self-care? What it means for me, how I came about it, how I decided to start practicing self-care, totally by accident, unintentionally, but it's become a big part of my life, and it certainly has generated or helped inspire me to generate this channel and this content. By definition, we'll go to the internet here and look up what is self-care. Self-care has been defined as the process of establishing behaviors to ensure holistic well-being of oneself, to promote health and actively manage illness when it occurs. Individuals engage in some form of self-care daily with food choices, exercise, sleep, and hygiene. So you're basically practicing self-care whether you realize it or not. We're talking about positive self-care or doing self-care better, I guess, because we're all practicing it already in some way with those choices we make every day. There are 7 pillars of healthcare. Those are mental, emotional, physical, environmental, spiritual, recreational, and social. And here are some rules of self-care, which I think are pretty cool. Yourself is bigger than you. Self-care is inclusive. Self-care is not self-indulgence. Self-care is difficult and worth the work. This is so very true. It's a daily commitment to take care of yourself, to practice self-care. Self-care is not one size fits all. Matter of fact, that's one of the biggest advantages for sharing this information on a social media platform. It's that people can dissect that and pick and choose what works for them individually. And that's encouraged here. And that discussion that takes place in the comments is so important because people throw out other ideas or other alternatives, or that didn't work for me, but this did. Now, I believe self-care started about 20, 30 years ago when doctors began to include their patients more in their diagnosis or their treatment, their judgment about certain treatments. They'd give them medicine, or you'd come in when you're sick and a doctor would say, "How do you feel?" Like they would do the blood tests and they would look at your tongue and they would listen to your heart, tap on your knee, whatever. And they began to ask this much more often starting in the 90s, from my recollection. How do you feel? How is this treatment doing for you? That really began the process of inclusion of the patient's well-being, their own attitude about their health. And that began to elevate the importance of self-care. How are you dealing with this? How are you taking care of this? The flip side of that is when we started doing things and the internet came about, we started sharing information about self-care, whether it's vitamins or exercise or diet plans. Then we go to our doctors, and if that's not in their list of recommended things, they would sort of look at it skeptically. That was, again, my experience. If I went to a doctor and said, I'm taking this vitamin or doing this exercise, if it works for you, I guess it's okay. I don't see any harm in that because they're just not engaged with that on a day-to-day basis. Most doctors are involved with drug therapies. That's where their occupation is at, and that's where they're motivated to be at. So you can't be too surprised when they don't want to hear about your vitamin D or your magnesium or these other things. Now, lately that's started to shift, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. But when it comes to social media exploded this self-care that began with doctors asking you how you're feeling, how are you doing. Now with social media, we've gotten, once you started that fire, it just keeps burning, and we're sharing that information. I was feeling the effects of aging at 55 in a big way. I had all kinds of illnesses. I was not doing well, and I'd go to the doctor and they do all the tests and they say, well, your liver's not good, you're pre-diabetic, you need to lose some weight, you've got this problem, this problem, this problem. I know you've been back for breathing, but all of these things, they can happen, anxiety can happen. This is just what happens when you get old. And they'd prescribe me some drugs and the drugs weren't helping. So I'd go to another doctor, he prescribed me some more drugs. Nothing was helping. So at some point, I seeked out some internet information. And that's when I found Dr. Sinclair and others and started taking supplements and had my rebirth or my turnaround. NMN has been the biggest turnaround for me, and I shared that. And I shared that early on in this channel because I got duped buy a fake supplement on Amazon. So I thought it was important to share my story, the success, but also getting duped for a few months, thinking I was taking NMN, even though I wasn't feeling any change. I thought I was taking NMN. So I took a good NMN for a couple months to recap. I took a fake one for 7 months. Felt great for 2 months. Didn't feel as good the 7 months, but I thought there was a honeymoon period that was wearing off. Shared what I was taking. People started to ask questions, and I found out I was taking a fake NMN. The minute I switched back to a real tested NMN, which I took to a lab myself, which I now get from DoNotAge, by the way, they're in the description. You can use my code THEPULSE. I rebounded in a huge way, and now I'm going on 4 years of that rebound and rebirth, and I've never felt better, and I've never been happier. And I kind of laugh at those doctors now that were telling me, well, you're just getting old. It's going to get worse. You're just going to keep getting worse from here. Get used to it. Frankly, even my own parents, well, it doesn't get any better. Well, it can get better. I got better, and thousands of other people started getting better on this channel. So what happened then? We're flying high. The videos are going viral. Everybody loves the story. Over 10,000 people tried NMN. Big win, right? Everyone lives happily ever after, and the Pulse goes down in history as changing the lives of thousands of people. Well, then the NMN war began. And on behalf of the drug industry, the government said, no, I'm sorry, NMN's not really a supplement. Matter of fact, that's not true. They didn't say they were sorry. They just said NMN doesn't meet the definition of a supplement because it's being investigated as a drug. But they didn't provide any evidence that it was being investigated as a drug prior to it being available to you and I as a supplement. So the supplement industry sued, and I joined that lawsuit because I was firsthand seeing the impacts of that quote-unquote banned by the FDA, which then they said, no, we haven't taken any action yet. It's funny what happens when you go to court. Their whole tune changed. Oh, we haven't taken any action. But I'm here to tell you they did. Just as the government was using social media as a shadow arm of government to censor people like myself and this channel, to be honest, they were using another organization, a company called LegitScript. They were using them as a shadow arm of government. In other words, NMN was not on a ban list by the FDA. You could look at the FDA's list, and NMN was never on that list as a banned substance, but it was on a LegitScript list, and that triggered many companies to stop selling NMN or even stop the promotion of content, hence this channel's shadow ban. They even slowed that down based on this LegitScript. So FDA could sit there and say, well, we didn't do it. And then the company can say, well, we go to this LegitScript list and the database says what the government bans. So they were using LegitScript as their mechanism to enforce a ban that they were claiming to be no part of. Well, now all of that is open knowledge, and that is being presented in court, and we'll see by July how that all plays out. But in the meantime, FDA has completely done a 180. They've backtracked, and LegitScript, I can tell you, as of November, removed NMN from that list. It took a couple months, but apparently now content, and I'll try to promote this content, but content where I've talked about NMN as of a couple days ago just began to be advertised here on YouTube. So finally, Google YouTube, who was following religiously that LegitScript list and didn't remove NMN from their banned or restricted ingredient list at first, it took them 2 months to do it, but it looks like finally we're having a breakthrough, or we've had a breakthrough. We'll see if it continues. We'll see if it happens again, because there's been some back and forth with other content about NMN, but now they're allowing us to discuss it. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to post a flurry of content the next few weeks, certainly this week, and sort of test that theory out. Is YouTube really back in business with letting us practice free speech when it comes to self-care? Some of you might have heard of Dr. Eric Berg. Dr. Eric Berg was a champion for the keto diet. I've never done the keto diet. I'm not a proponent of the keto diet, but I listen to the information because I find it interesting. And some of the success that people are having mirrors some of the supplement success or dietary success that I've had when I've changed my diet. So I do kind of listen to that information. Well, Eric Berg, at the same time last year that I saw my 80% reduction in traffic and reach when I got shadow banned, he says he had the same thing happen. And for him, he went from millions of views. I had about 300,000 last April or of 2023, so almost 2 years ago. I had 300,000 views. He had millions of views every month. And it went from something like 8 to 10 million to like 1 million or 2 million. Like, so his content went way down and he had a lot of good performing videos, and he's no longer showing up in search. If you look up the keto diet, he used to be right near the top. He's back near the top in search now. So again, I'm thinking, well, what wasn't okay under the last administration is suddenly okay again. Why is that? And will that extend to this channel and our reach and NMN? Time will tell. We will see. But I congratulate Eric Berg for apparently turning things back around. Don't know when it happened. I'd love to talk to him sometime. But he was stating that social media was only following the World Health Organization plan for health, which didn't include recognition of the keto diet as a viable diet. Therefore, they were suppressing his reach. Well, now the United States is no longer a member of WHO, so it's going to be interesting to see if that had any effect in his traffic and might have a positive impact somehow here as well. Will the censorship stop? Will the reduction in talk about self-care or our own ideas about diets, in other words, sharing these different aspects of self-care, will they allow that traffic to be discussed again? Will they allow these topics to be discussed again? That's the big question that I have right now. If you look at the data, this channel has the same click-through rates that I had before when I was getting traffic. It has the same watch times I was having before when the channel was wildly popular. It went down at the same time Eric Berg's reach went down, and I believe something was triggered. And that point, as far as the shadow ban goes, something happened around spring of 2023. So what we've done here is not illegal, and now it's illegal to suppress us talking about it. What we do here is share. I share my protocol. After doing the research, I share the research that I did, where I found the information, and I share the results. And then it's up to you to look at that and say, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, I'll try that, I won't try that. That's up to you. That's the beauty of self-care. It's about your care. You know your body. You know what's right for you. And you should be able to collect the information from others, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a nutritionist. I'm a certified fitness instructor, and I should have a right to discuss my own successes with you as well. So now I'll keep doing that, and hopefully we'll get back to getting some reach and lift the shadow ban. I'll talk to you again soon.